Welcome to Queens Golden Gales football on Coach Co TV. And today's lineup is the McMaster Marauders, number 3 in the country, against the number 4 Queens Golden Gales in Donnie. Both teams coming off big wins last week in different ways. The Western Queens game to start with.
Exactly. Gales going into the fourth quarter were down 11 points, come back with a 30-point explosion in the fourth quarter, and they managed to beat Western 47-35. One big key in that game is that now effectively means that Queens will probably have any tiebreaker against Western unless things really, fall apart for the Gales throughout the rest of the season. So that's one team you've managed to get ahead of. Now the next big key is to get ahead of the Marauders this week. And last week the Marauders, they beat up Toronto 80-0, outdoing Queens by 8 points because the Gales had won 72-0 against Toronto the week before. Easily right now the two most explosive offenses, and in the case of Mac, one of the best defenses, the best defense in the country yet to give up a point this year.
And while we get to the MAC defense, the MAC running game really has been another strength of this Marauders team.
Well, Kyle Peer and Jesse Lumsden. Jesse Lumsden right now averaging over 10 yards a carry. He tends to be more of the outside runner, so it's going to be important for the Gales outside linebackers and also their cornerbacks to come up and make the stops on him. Kyle Peer has been doing a lot of the running up the gut. You take a look at their stats, though. Yes, they're explosive, but they've been able to get a lot of rest. They've had a couple of their other young backup running backs in because they've had such big, huge margins of victory this year. So I think one of the other tests this week for Mac is going to be, now they're finally going up against a quality opponent. It's tough when you keep playing some of the weak sisters in the league and then boom, you're going to go up against the one team that you're probably going to have to beat if you want to get home field for the Yates Cup.
Okay, and we talked about the running backs at McMaster. We should mention, too, Adam Archibald, the Frontenac grad, is the backup quarterback for the Marauders. He may see some action today because he has in the past.
Back up to John Behe, and Behe had a decent game last week. Behe's not a Tom Dennison. He's not going to win the game, but the other key thing about Behe, he's not going to lose the game for them either. And in fact, he's taken over the quarterback position. They alternated last year with Behe, and another quarterback has now moved out to the wide receiver position. Archibald's been in to see some action, but I think primarily it's been because of the margins of the leads that they've had so far.
All right, let's look at the Queens offense. Is it a better offense from last year or just different?
I think it's different. It's more balanced. I think a lot of what fans have been watching the Gales so far this year, either here at Richardson on TV or have made the trips down to Toronto and London, have seen is that you've often had Mike Hendry or another back end, almost a sort of a offset tight end position, just to add in an extra back for protection. That was one of the things that the Gales saw in the film last year against Mac when they lost the Yates Cup 33-19, and that's one of the big differences this year is that they have a bit of an extra, slightly different protection package. Talking to head coach Pat Sheehan, he said that some of the problems they had last week was just to sort out some of those difficulties they had with protection. Hopefully they'll be able to get that done for this week, because that's going to be the key for the Gales offense is, will they be able to give Tom Dennison enough time to pass? And if they get that time to pass, then that means we'll be able to see some big runs out of people like Andrew Smith, Brian Crawford, and Mike Navo had that big 75-yarder last week.
Okay, I think the other person we have to watch out for on Mac is they have a great running game, but they have a great receiver in Juan Swart, number 88.
Exactly, and he's been their top receiver. Now, the one difference, though, that you need to watch out for in terms of their passing game is that they have basically one top receiver. The other receivers are much further down the line, whereas the Gales tend to be able to spread it out a lot more. So I think for the Gales, the key today is take away that running game. And yes, you mentioned Von Swart, but I'd like to see the Gales be able to force Behe to have to try and hit Swart a lot more often than he'd like to.
Okay, and a couple injuries for the Gales at receiver. John Northcote, probably out for the season with a knee injury. And Brad Smith, probably not ready for another 2 or 3 weeks with a hamstring injury. But as you mentioned, Don, there is some depth at receiver.
Definitely. We've seen a couple of new guys come in. Andrew Joyner's come in and done a great job this year. He's second for the Gales right now in receiving. And Craig Spear has taken over the top spot. And talking to Coach Sheehan, what he said essentially is that what they've done is move Spear over from the single receiver on the weak side of the field. He essentially is taking the place of Brad Smith, who had that great season last year. Don't forget about Ian Fleming. Okay, this is a guy that the Gales have tried to get a lot to Fleming this year. It hasn't always clicked. They've had a couple of touchdown passes that Fleming called back. I'd expect to see him have a big game, trying to break out against this tough Mac secondary. Mac returned their whole secondary from last year.
All right, so we'll see how this results. Number 3 McMaster Marauders against the number 4 Queens Golden Gales. We'll be back with the opening kickoff right after this.
Cogeco Community TV, truly local television, brings you the people and the stories that shape our communities and make them unique places to live. From Peterborough to Cornwall, from Kingston to Hawkesbury, we've got you covered. Experience truly local sports and politics. Delve into the fascinating lives of our local heroes and find out what's happening in your own backyard. Your stories, your neighbors, your community. Cogeco TV, truly local television.
I'm Allie, and you're watching Coach Co. I'm Allie, and you're watching Coach TV.
Welcome to Queens Golden Gales football on Cogeco. I'm Mark Bischoff, and along with me, Donnie Lewis and Dustin Delagarde. And this should be an excellent game as it's the number 3 McMaster Marauders against the number 4 Queens Golden Gales. And we're just about set to get the game underway with Ray being the kicker for the McMaster Marauders. Getting ready to receive the kick is Brian Crawford and Michael Navo, both running backs for the Gales as well. And it's going to go to Crawford. Crawford takes it at his own 10, up to the 15, picks up a block to the 20, dances around and gets to about the 19-yard line, and that's where the Gales will start off. And let's just set up that Gales offense. The left tackle is Ryan Freeman. The left guard, John Barkley. Sean O'Donnell is the center. He's a rookie. Right guard is Jones, and Steed is the right tackle. Dennison, of course, is at quarterback. The receivers are McKinnon on the wide side and Joyner, the rookie, on the other wide side. He had over 100 yards receiving last week. Mike Hendry is the fullback, and I believe it's Crawford in there for this series as the running back. He'll switch off a lot with Navo. The inside receivers are Spear and Fleming. First and 10 for the Gales, right at their own 24-yard line. Dennison, play action, rolls out to his right, has a man, it's complete. Shakes one tackle and gets to the 35. Nice play that time by Mike Hendry.
Mark, interesting to see right off the top there. We talked about it on the pregame show. The Gales had talked about using Mike Hendry as a blocking back, an extra man in there to help with the protection schemes. The Gales try and trick things up right off the top, and they throw Hendry out in a receiving route, and I believe that's just about a second catch all year. He's had a couple of rushes out of the backfield, picking up even a touchdown last weekend.
All right, so they get a first down already. First and 10 for the Gales on their own 37. There's a cross breeze. It's died down a bit. It's about 20 kilometers an hour right now. And now there's a whistle as the officials are a little unhappy with, I believe there's a problem with the score clock. I think it's the time count clock, the 20-second clock to put the ball into play. It's showing 3 seconds. Let's just go over the McMaster Marauders lineup. Robert Shaw and Mike Gow are the ends. Binder and Shanahan are the tackles. They play 5 across. It's Armstrong, Clovis, Pottinger, Furtado, and Little. The free safety is Jesse Card. Byron Dinter and Kwame Ido are the corners. Ido an all-star last year. We should mention, in case people are wondering, Brad Smith, the All-Canadian receiver from last year, is still out with a hamstring injury. Probably won't be back for another 2 or 3 weeks. And John Northcote, another great inside receiver, is probably done for the season. But the Gales do have some depth there, Don.
Exactly, and one player that we haven't mentioned yet was even out there for that first play is Alex Benags, who was activated a couple of weeks ago. And so we're starting to see some of those, young players coming into the fold. The coaching staff has talked a lot about this is going to be one of the strengths, that yes, they have a lot of veterans in some of those key positions, but they're already able to work in a lot of young kids.
Gales coming off a 47-35 victory over the Western Mustangs last week, come from behind, 30 points in the last quarter. Gales also, though, coming off a drubbing by the McMaster Marauders last year in the Yates Cup game, so they would like to atone for that, as they felt they did not play a great game last year.
Mac have won the last 3 in this series, but prior to that, the Gales had won the first 9 and go all the way back to 1952, back when these two teams played the first time. But the last time the Gales beat Mac, back on October 18th, 1975, a low-scoring game that day, just 16-3, and I'd have to expect that you see a few more points put up on the board this afternoon with the Gales' passing attack and also that vaunted Mac rushing attack.
And plays whistled, about to be whistled in now as the Gales break the huddle. So going wide to the left is Sean McKinnon. To the right is Joyner. Again, once again, I'm not quite sure what all the... Finally, time is whistled in, and they're ready. Sean O'Donnell, the center, is over the ball. And Dennison takes the snap, and he hands it off straight up the middle to Crawford. Crawford will only get about 3 yards at best. That'll take it to the 40.
I think that is going to be another one of the keys for this afternoon's game, though, is that the Gales have to be balanced, at least in the way they start the game off here. We saw last year that they tried to go deep downfield a lot in the first quarter, and that just seemed to get them back on their heels, and then from then on they were playing catch-up for the rest of that Yates Cup game.
All right, Gales break the huddle. They have 2nd and 7. A short 7. And Dennison back to throw, quick drop back, finds man, it's complete to the 46. He'll just have the first down. The receiver that time being Ian Fleming, the veteran.
Nice job by Fleming to drop his shoulder and beat the 2 defensive backs coming over to try and knock him out. One of them there, Armstrong, to make the play. But that's 2 first downs now in a row, and we talk about both teams, in essence, are going to want to try and play a ball control game just to keep it away from the other team, so you might not see the Gales going downfield as much as we have throughout the first 3 games of the season.
Checking out of the ball game now is McKinnon and Chinkuski. Spear is on the short side of the field, all alone. Usually he's on the 3 side. And a handoff to Crawford, and he's stuffed right away. He'll just get back to the line of scrimmage. That's it, the Hamilton native.
Just 3 receivers essentially in that set there. Alex Van Eggs, normally a wide receiver, is playing a tight end on the strong side of the formation right now, along with Hendry playing his blocking, almost an H-back position on the right side of the formation.
2nd and 9. And this time Hendry comes out of the ball game. McKinnon is back in. He's going wide to the left. Joyner is wide to the right. Nobody in the backfield. Shotgun formation. 2nd and 9. Dennison, big rush on. Look out. He's going to have to eat it, and he's sacked. He'll lose about 2 yards. But Dennison smartly didn't try to force anything, Don.
No, good job there. The good coverage downfield. But once again, I think that was one of the keys that head coach of Mac, Greg Marshall, had said in talking to him before the game, was they want to be able to get the pressure, upset that timing, and don't let Dennison get into a rhythm, because as Western saw last week in the 4th quarter, once he gets into a rhythm, look out, as the Gales exploded for 30 points in the 4th period last week.
Awaiting this punt is Andrade and Rankin for McMaster. And Brugden Hill gets the snap, brings it down, gets a pretty good kick away into the wind. Andrade gets it at his own 25, picks up a block, running across field, gets to the 30, and finally is tackled at the 35. A couple of Gales had a piece of him just before that.
40-yard punt that time by Brugden Hill, who so far this season has been averaging about 36.9 yards a punt. And if it does come down to special teams, as it did last year in the regular season matchup with Michael Ray kicking a last-minute field goal for Mac, you have 2 of the best punters in the game, and right now the 2 top scorers in the country in Michael Ray and Chris Napoli.
All right, first possession for McMaster at their own 35. They have a bit of a wind behind their backs as the wind swung around. Fahey back to throw, lots of time looking, fires, complete, incomplete, as unable to squeeze it was Chris Rankin. It looked like he was going to have a reception, but Don, there's also a flag on the field.
Looks as though it's in the region of offensive holding from the side judge. Actually, sorry, and it's, I believe, an ineligible man downfield. A lot of time that time for Fahey to get rid of the ball. And he showed a good arm right now with McMaster going with the wind. the wind coming off the lake for this afternoon's game. You can see him looking downfield. Rankin has his hands on it initially, but then able to come across and knock it out at the last second is second-year cornerback Justin Swag, and it's going to be a 10-yard penalty going against Mac, which is going to push them back to their 25.
So nice job by Swag, the Bay Ridge grad. And so Mac will have 2nd and 20, as Mac looked like they were perhaps trying to surprise the Gales, and certainly the Gales fans with starting off with a pass, as they have that vaunted rushing game with Lumsden, the leading rusher in the nation. So 2nd and 20 from the McMaster 25. Behe rolls out a bit to his left. He's got some pressure. Look out. He's running for his life. Trudeau's chasing him and chases him out of bounds. Behe will get about 11 yards back, but it'll be 3rd and 9.
Saved this be 2nd down, actually. Great job by Rankin blocking downfield on that play, able to allow Behe to get out. Corey Trudeau and Matt Kirk initially had pressure on him. And this is the kind of passing attack that Gales defensive coordinator Pat Tracy said he could expect to see a lot of rollout. He's not a drop-back quarterback like what Queens saw last week with Chris Hessel. So a nice 12-yard carry that time.
Good pressure by Andrew Mode as well. It is second. The down marker indicated second before, but it is a 2nd down because the Gales forced them to take down over and take the penalty. So 2nd and 8. Let's see what the Marauders do here. They're at their own 37. 0-0 is the score in the early goings of the game. And I believe Behe has taken too long to put the ball into play, so the Marauders not looking very sharp on this first series, Don.
And this is one of the things that has plagued both teams a little bit. Right now, the Gales coming in the 8th most penalized, I guess you'd say 3rd most penalized team in the OU, and Mac the 2nd most penalized team in the OU. And it's something both teams have had a history of over the last couple of years, and it was one of the factors, I know, going back to last week's game against Western, both teams being flagged for numerous calls. It's not the kind of thing, though, you'd expect with a veteran offense. Behe's been in there for 3 years. You have a lot of veterans at the receiver positions, also in the backfield. To see a time count violation like that forcing you back and giving you a long 2nd down play coming up.
So once again, it's 2nd and long for the Marauders. 2nd and 13. They're at their own 33. Sorry, make that their own 32. 0-0 is the score. 11:15 left to play in the opening quarter. McMaster coming off a 80-0 pounding of the U of T Blues. And the Gales coming off a 47-35 victory over Western. 30 points in the last quarter to pull out the win as they were trailing by 11 points in that game.
Just to run down some of the rest of the statistical numbers for both teams. Right now coming into the game, Gales 2nd offensively in points, 3rd total offense, 2nd in passing. Mac on the other side, 1st in points, 1st in total offense, 3rd in passing, and 1st in rushing. Take a look at that defense. Mac have yet to give up a point this season, which has to be getting close to some kind of record for the OU.
Well, Don, the pace of this game has been a little bit slow, as a couple of times now head coach Greg Marshall of the Marauders has been discussing things with the officials, and Behe's in on the conversation too. Should mention Behe actually is a 2-time OFSA basketball champion in high school.
I think what Behe, sorry to cut you off there, Mark, what Behe might be motioning to is that the 20-second clock at the north end of the field is out, and that is what, when McMaster's driving in that direction, that's what he's using as his cue, because obviously you don't want to be looking behind you as you're walking up to the line of scrimmage. Now it's back on, so hopefully we'll be able to get play going here. A couple of milestones to come up. Kyle Peer from just down the road in Belleville needs just 119 yards to become Mac's all-time leading rusher, and he would surpass the older brother of Kwame Aidu, Kojo Aidu, who moved on to play in the CFL with the Edmonton Eskimos.
All right, so Mac breaks the huddle. It's 2nd and 13. Vaughn Swart is wide to the left. He's a big target at 230 pounds, 6'3". Behe back to throw, looks to the left side for Swart. He's open. Ball's in the air. It's complete. Swart all the way to the Gales 36-yard line. So big play by the McMaster Marauders, and we did mention this early in the game, Don.
About a 42-yard completion that time, and you did mention Swart, and that time just running a simple goal route, able to beat Swag, and one of the And talking to the Gales defensive coaches, they think one of the strengths that Swag has is his speed, but he simply got broken on the break that time, and the veteran receiver able to get deep downfield for a big first down.
All right, Pierre and Lumsden in the backfield, and play action to Lumsden. Behe looking lots of time. He's being chased now. He's got some running room. He's going to go for it. Oh, but closing the gap nicely there and stopping Behe at the 27-yard line was number 22 for the Gales, Ryan McManus.
One of the things we're seeing right now, though, is that the Gales came into the game expecting to see a lot of rushing by Mac. They haven't seen any yet, other than the 2 scrambles by Behe. And on the pass protection right now, the Gales are getting a little bit tripped up. They're sliding their defensive ends inside a little bit, losing their contain, and that's why Behe's been able to get outside for positive yardage twice here in the first quarter.
So Behe is half a yard short of a first down on that scramble. So it'll be second and half a yard. I formation in the backfield. And Behe just hands it off this time, but just getting the first down that time is Kyle Pierre, the Belleville native. And it looked a little iffy for a while, Don.
Well, Petone coming up and McManus to make the tackle, very close. And indeed, that was one of the keys we said for that outside rushing game that the Gales, that Mac is going to try and use with Lumsden, that they have to make sure that they bring him down quickly on the corner.
So it looked like McMaster was going to be sort of deep in their own end, having to punt, and they managed to get out of a hole, and now they're threatening to score as they are on the Gales 28. This is their first possession. Behe over the center. Going in motion is Rankin. Just a lone man in the backfield, long count, and Behe hands it off, and getting about 5 yards is Pierre. A couple of flags on the play. We'll have to see what those are about. So that's, if it stands, it'll be 2nd and 5 as Pierre got about 5 yards there.
And right now with the ball at about the 27 going with the wind, Mac are just about already in the field goal range for Michael Ray. His long of the year right now is 26. He's connected on 7 of 9, and that's going to move them that much closer now, Mac, with that first down offside penalty against the Gales.
So it'll be 1st and 5 yards to go from the Gales 22. 0-0 is the score. 9:22 left to play in the opening quarter. Marauders break the huddle. Behe over the center, Sir Kelly. I formation in the backfield. Pitch out to Lumsden, left side. He's got a bit of room, breaks the line, but he's strung out nicely by the Gales as they played that sweep quite well, Don.
Exactly, and they're able to come up, and Mark, as you said, the key thing is to string that out. The first guy isn't necessarily going to make the tackle, but he has to be able to hold his block and not get pushed out of position. It's just a 1-yard carry that time, and this is the kind of offense attack that the Gales thought they were going to see out of Mac.
We'll just see it here on the replay.
As you can see, the first tackle made, and then a number of Gales defenders. That was Curtis McClellan coming in, and if they credit him with a solo tackle, that'll tie him with the all-time lead for solo tackles as a Queens Golden Gale.
And hand off to Pierre. Pierre will get the first down and a little bit more as he picks up about 6 yards on that carry. Should mention Lumsden is averaging over 10 yards a carry, and I believe Pierre averages over 8 or 9 a carry, which is pretty impressive.
So far this year, 6 touchdowns on the ground for Lumsden, 5 for Pierre. You've had Rick Andrade and Tom Flaxman have seen a lot of carries out of the backfield, but primarily in those mop-up situations that they've had late in their first 3 games of the season.
Behe over the center, 1st and 10 from the Gales 15. Back to throw, looking, has time, fires over the middle. It's complete. Touchdown. Sean Postma, the tight end. And so the Marauders draw first blood.
Well, a nice job again by the McMaster offensive line of giving Behe all day to throw. And talking to the Gales coaches, they thought this might be one of the weaknesses, just a simple drop back, not even a play action fake there. Open over the middle, and then the Gales defenders coming over just a step too late. So once again, McMaster drawing first blood here, as they have done in all three matchups against the Gales, the last three.
And the convert is good by Mike Ray.
The extra point by Mike Ray is good.
So that's a 7-play,
In the opening quarter, it's McMaster.
75-yard drive. 3 through the air, 4 in the ground, resulting in the TD. And that took 4 minutes and 12 seconds for McMaster to drive down the field using the wind here in the first quarter.
And credit the Marauders offense as they got themselves out of a 1st and 20 situation from their own 25 on the strength of a 41-yard pass to Von Swart from John Behe. So the Marauders showing, though, that they can mix it up with some passing, as really they've been a running team so far this year, rushing for over 300 yards in each of their first 3 games. However, they have not faced a tough opponent like Queens so far, as they faced Toronto and York.
Slow start's one of the hallmarks of the Gales last year, and certainly last week against Western. They can't afford to keep doing that against a big opponent like McMaster.
Crawford takes the kickoff at the 10 to the 15, 20, ducks inside and gets to about the 27-yard line, and that's where the Gales will start this drive.
About a 55-yard kickoff that time. Credit Crawford with a 17-yard return. Again, good job by the McMaster special teams unit getting downfield on Crawford.
So Dennison comes in. Dennison, a couple of times when he did go back to throw, if he dropped straight back on, the Marauders had some pretty good pressure on him.
And that is the key again that for McMaster. They can't let Dennison get into a rhythm. So the key for the Gales is to be able to make sure that they have that extra man in there for protection.
Play action, Dennison looking, firing deep, and too far for Joyner. And it falls incomplete, so it'll be 2nd and 10. And Dennison took a pretty big hit after he threw that.
Well, they tried to fake the inside handoff to Crawford that time, but again, a good push coming up front from the likes of Jones and Shanahan on that interior of the defensive line. And Spear just slightly overthrown. We saw it in the first game of the year against York that going into the wind a little bit, that Dennison was having some difficulty, not so much underthrowing, but almost overthrowing the receivers at times.
So 2nd and 10 for the Gales. They're at their own 27. 4 receivers on the right-hand side. Dennison looks left, finds a man. It's incomplete. Unable to squeeze it was Ian Fleming. Nice try, though, as he kind of had to make a great play on.
Big play, though, and that's the kind of thing he has to make the play on, though. Yes, you're sort of draping your hands over the defensive back, but the defensive back wasn't looking at it. And Fleming has to be able to come down to that kind of catch so that the Gales can try and get a little bit of momentum, but 2 plays and out is going to allow McMaster to come quickly back on the field after just 39 seconds.
Fleming reaching over Ido. Ido only standing at about 5'8", Fleming at about 6'3", and tried to grab it, but just couldn't quite hang on to it. So Rugenhill will have to kick this away. Awaiting the kick is Rick Andrade and Chris Rankin for the Marauders. Rugenhill gets a snap, gets the kick, not too good. This time it bounces at the Queen's 50 and bounces out of bounds at the Queen's 51. So Rugenhill punting well this year, but that one he kind of shanked.
A tough time going into the wind that time. And Chris Rogan actually had outrun the punt even before it had landed, and then Rankin just simply letting the ball fall out of bounds. So now McMaster starting off with tremendous field position in the Gales half just outside the 51.
McMaster leads it 7-0, and we have 6:35 left to play in the opening quarter. They break the huddle. They're at the Queen's 51-yard line. Behe, the quarterback. I formation in the backfield. Lumsden and Pierre. Play action. Behe looking to the left side, going deep. Swart wide open. 25, 20, makes a move and is hauled down at the 17-yard line by Mitchell Smith.
And Smith, and also on the coverage at that time was Justin Schwag, and Smith was the safety who had to come over. Schwag slipping on the turf there, and you almost wonder with some of the rain that we got this week if that might have been what allowed allowed him to get so wide open, and for Schweik to break off his coverage. And so far it's been the vaunted Mac passing attack, which is just simply ripping up the Gales defense here in the first quarter.
Rankin wide to the right. Behe now, misdirection to Pierre. Pierre, though, is stuffed by Mitchell Smith.
And a bit of a different look. Pierre often is the guy who'll run inside, and they tried to be able to get him outside, but as we talked earlier, the Gales defensive ends have to hold their position. Smith doing a good job getting the backside coverage there, and that's actually going to force them into a loss of a yard on the play.
So 2nd and 11 for the Gales, for the Marauders at the Gales 18.
Again, the officials coming over to the bench here to discuss things. 5:50 left here in the first quarter. 7-0 the score for the visiting Marauders.
Should mention that the wind has sort of been swirling a bit. Right now it's right at the Marauders' backs, and it's about 25 kilometers. So they do have the wind at their backs, and I guess perhaps that's another reason they're going to the air more. But also it's been working, so why not go with it, even though so far the 3-0 record can be attributed to their great rushing game.
A couple of streaks on the line here. McMaster have won 28 consecutive games, and OU playing 19 in the regular season, 9 in the playoffs. The last time they lost, October 21st, 2000, to the Western Mustangs.
Behe back to throw, looks, and it's complete. Not enough for a first down. Just getting to the 15-yard line is Conrad Globe.
Petone coming up with the tackle, and then coming in to finish him off was Mode, and a great job that time done by the Gales defense to stop him. The other streak that's on the line right now, the Gales have won 10 consecutive regular season games. It's the longest span since back in 1977, 78, and 79, which included, of course, that Vanier Cup victory back in 1978.
So Ray will attempt this field goal. Chris Rankin will hold. It'll come from the 21-yard line. It's pinned, kicked, and it's good. And so the Marauders go ahead 10-0 with 5 minutes left to play in the opening quarter.
So 22-yard field goal that time for Rankin.
McMaster 2 drives and 10 points. As the McMaster offense has done their job so far in this ballgame.
And being down early is something, again, that the Gales saw last week in that Western game, so hopefully they'll be able to get things turned around. The Gales essentially just tried to keep their head above water in the first half last week, even really through the first 3 quarters before exploding in the fourth.
All right, the Gales elect a scrimmage from their own 35 as opposed to taking a kick because of that fairly strong wind. Crawford, the lone man in the backfield, takes a pitch out to the left side and has trouble avoiding McMaster defenders, just gets to the line of scrimmage, and there's also a flag on the play in the backfield.
It's back to the line of scrimmage. Flag on the play.
Looks like it might be a holding penalty. That's usually the...
Holding against Queens. Declined.
Also talking to McMaster coach Marshall before the game, he said one of the things they have to do is to take advantage of the opportunities when they get them. When they get the Gales pinned deep, which something he was frustrated that he felt they did not do enough in the first quarter last year in that Yates Cup victory. And right now Mac are certainly able to do that, breaking out on top 10-0 just inside the first 11 minutes of the game.
McKinnon wide to the right. Shotgun formation. 2nd and 9. Dennison looking. Look out, he fumbles the ball. And McMaster recovers. As unfortunately Sean O'Donnell did not see the ball to center. He was near it, but he was looking to protect his quarterback. And McMaster with a big turnover here. They can really open this game up now as they have 1st and 10 from the Gales 29.
8-yard line.
Here we can see on the replay, Dennison unable to see the backside pressure that time, and unfortunately for the Gales, standing almost right on top of it was the rookie Sean O'Donnell, but unable to see it, and then McMaster able to cover it up. And this is one of the things that a lot of people question. Would McMaster, going up against a quality opponent, be able to continue this streak that they're on here early in the season? And certainly right now in the first quarter, it appears to be that way.
Both teams 3-0 going into this game. Right now McMaster leads at 10-0. Behe over center. Play action, looking to throw, throws deep and high, but nobody there on a timing pattern. The intended receiver that time was Chris Rankin.
That may have been the first time all day that maybe Behe felt a little bit of pressure on him that time and just simply threw it away downfield.
It's the Ottawa GG's 25, Western 11.
Well, just hearing that out-of-town score, 25-11 right now in London right now. Western losing to Ottawa. So that just speaks to the fact that Ottawa had a bit of a tough game first week, but have now managed to rip off 2 victories. Western, if they lose that, would go down 1-3. And you talk about streaks, I believe that they have the longest streak in the history of Canadian college football for not only playoff seasons, but winning seasons. They'd be 1-3, and they still have to go up against Laurier.
That's right, and Laurier is a bit of a team that a lot of people forget in the OUA, as they've been fairly strong this year. Last year, I think they ended up 1-7, but they lost 6 of the games by 5 points or less, and they gave the Gales a go here at Richardson Stadium.
Laurier last year finished up 1-7, and on the season scored more points than they gave up. So that certainly tells you how close they were in all of those losses. And I believe that one win obviously was against Toronto, who everybody the last few years has been blowing out.
So I think McMaster may have called a timeout here.
Another action around the OU this week. We have York and Windsor, both 1-2 teams at Windsor, and 2 0-3 teams, Guelph at Toronto. Have to expect to see Guelph come up with their first victory of the year.
2nd and 10 for the Marauders. They're at the Gales' 29-yard line. High formation in the backfield. That's Kieran Lumsden. Here going in motion now. Behe back to throw, rushes on, and I believe there's going to be a procedure call here as play is whistled dead.
Play whistle dead. Now the question here is, was one of the defensive linemen, I believe the term used is unabated to the quarterback, and in that case they can whistle it down. But no, indeed, it is against Mac. So a good job that time by the Gales, showing a bit of a different front and forcing some of those Mac offensive linemen to move just a shade early.
It'll be 2nd and 15 now for Mac.
And then another important thing with that play, it now moves them a little bit further back and would make it close to a 40-yard field goal. As we said earlier, Ray's longest field goal so far of the year, it's just 26 yards.
Lumsden, the lone man in the backfield. 2nd and 15, McMaster. Back to throw is Behe. Rushes on again, looking for Swart. Got a step on Schwag, incomplete. Couldn't quite squeeze it. Schwag had pretty good coverage that time, Don.
Perfect job by the defensive back. And you see so many times, actually, sorry, check that. I believe it might even have been Cornel out there. Yes, indeed it was. The converted running back who had a big game 2 weeks ago against Toronto, but did a great job. When he saw the receiver start to go up for the ball, that's when he turned around, because if a defensive back doesn't turn around, quite often they'll throw the flag on you, knock the ball away, and that now has necessitated what's going to be about a 40-yard attempt here for Ray, going with the win.
It's pinned, kicked, looks like it may be a bit short. No, it's good, just makes it. So McMaster still gets some points out of that drive, that turnover. And now it's 13-0. That field goal set up by a Tommy Dennison fumble.
But for the Gales defense, at least, one of the things that we were able to do last week was adjust mid-game to some of the things that Western was doing, and you saw that time that the Gales are going to say to Mac, well, if you're going to start throwing the ball, we're going to bring some pressure here. And in fact, the drive started at the 29, ended up getting moved back to the 33 before the field goal.
All right, and once again, the Gales elect to take the ball at their own 35 as opposed to getting a kickoff from Ray. So 1st and 10 for the Gales. 3 minutes left to play in the opening quarter. Shotgun formation. Dennison awaiting the snap. Gets it. Looking to his right. Throwing deep for Joyner. Incomplete. Making a nice play at the last minute. Batting it away was Jesse Card.
This is knocked down by Jesse Card.
A tough pass that time, trying to thread it into triple coverage on a deep flag route. And right now the Mac defense able to keep Tommy Dennison off that rhythm that he's trying to get going here.
And that ball seemed to hang just a little bit. Dennison with a strong arm, but a pretty stiff breeze here. Hendry now checking out of the ball game.
And this is what Mac wants to see, is they know that when Hendry's coming out, Gales will be going shotgun, and the Mac defense can pin their ears back.
All right. Dennison fires, complete to Fleming. He's going to try to get the first down, but he's going to be short. But there is a flag, late hit by McMaster, I believe.
Fleming stepped out of bounds, and the ref and the umpire was going over to spot it, and then coming up to make the late hit was Armstrong, who had a big hit earlier in the game, and that's a huge penalty, as that now is going to give the Gales just their third first down here of the first quarter.
And Navo now checking into the ballgame for Crawford. I believe this is Navo's first action in the backfield. He does return kickoffs.
Fourth penalty of the day for 35 yards against Mac. And you talk about taking advantage of some of those breaks. Mac had them stopped there and would have forced the Gales to be punting into the wind for the third time this quarter.
So, first and 10 for the Gales inside Mac territory. Dennison looking over the middle, has a man Joyner. He can't squeeze it. Good coverage by Ido to strip him of the ball.
Great job by Kwame Ido, able to come in and just strip the ball away from him there at the last second. And as we saw last year in the Yates Cup game, Mac was pretty much able to neutralize Brad Smith. And today we see Craig Spears playing a lot in Smith's position. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see the Gales offensive coaches move Spear back to his old position as that single side receiver. Right now it's Joyner on the far side.
Hendry checking out of the ball game. Navo's in the backfield, shotgun formation. Dennison getting the snap, rolling to his right, pressure, big pressure, and he's sacked for a loss of about 8 yards.
6 men blitzing in that time, and it was Furtado coming from his safety position. And that's what Mac coaches are going to say. If you're going to block us with 5, we'll bring 6, and there's no way that you're going to be able to complete something downfield. That time it's going to be about an 8-yard loss on the play. And we see Furtado able to come in clean off the left side of the Gales offensive formation, going to bring on Vrugdenhill for another punt here.
So Vrugdenhill will have to punt against the wind once again. He stands at his own 36, awaiting the snap from O'Donnell. Gets it a bit high, brings it down, gets a pretty good kick away this time. And Rankin will take it at his own 21 and is tackled right away at the 25 as he had to backpedal to field that punt.
38-yard punt, just a 2-yard return, and then we see behind the play another unsportsmanlike penalty coming up here. I believe it's going to be flagged against McMaster's number 13 on the play there. That's Brandon Little.
Another late flag. It's against McMaster.
So a couple of undisciplined penalties. They really haven't cost McMaster yet, but they do have to be careful. Although Gales are trailing 13-0, they were trailing the Western Mustangs by 11 last week and came back. Of course, this McMaster team perhaps a little bit stronger than that team.
This is Mac's worst starting field position of the day, pushed back all the way to their 20-yard line. If the Gales can stop them here, hopefully they'd have good field position to start off the second quarter.
And they would get the win. So Behe, nobody in the backfield. Long count by Behe. Rolling out, looking, has all kinds of time, fires, incomplete. Rankin, the intended receiver, and 29 for Queens. Dave Brown gives him a little shot, as now we see Brown playing that corner side. I believe Schweg is being replaced by Brown as they've switched off at times.
Using the slightly more experienced in terms of football time player Dave Brown on the corner there, but that time Rankin again was wide open, just a great cutback route to the sideline, although it is going to bring up 2nd and 10.
Let's see what they do here. Last time they were fairly deep. They passed on a 42-yard pass to Von Swart. Let's see what happens here. Behe back to throw. All kinds of time again. Over the middle, intercepted. To the 25, the 20, the 15. Finally hauled down at the 14-yard line. Ryan Beckmanis makes the big play for Queens.
Huge break there for the Gales, as Beckmanis just playing possum, just sitting in that middle zone, and that's the kind of thing. They've been playing a lot of man early in the game, and now they come up with the zone coverage package that time, and as we'll see here on the replay in a moment, it's Ryan Beckmanis just sitting in the middle of that zone, picks off the ball at about the 27-yard line, gets it back down to the Mac 14-yard line. Big break here for the Gales, first of the game.
Dennison back to throw, big pressure, look out. And he's sacked again. Has all kinds of pressure. So he'll lose about 3 yards.
Jeff Robertshaw with sack.
So it'll be 2nd and 13.
Third sack of the day for 13 yards against the Gales.
Second and
And now they're going to go with the extra man in the backfield with Hendry coming in.
Sorry, make that 2nd and 14. Hendry actually in motion. He's going to line up at the left end. And again, a blitz. Looked like they were doing the option play.
Looked as though
And-
Mack was offside there too.
Yeah, and total bad read by the Gales offense. Because really,
Robertshaw again.
all
on the
that
tackle.
Tom Dennison saw was a horde of white sweaters.
Second and 16.
The Gales have lost 9 yards rushing. And they've lost, as we said, another 13 through the air. Now it's going to bring on Chris Napoli to try this field goal coming into the game. So far this year, Napoli has been good on 6 of 8. His longest has been 36 yards. And I believe the clock had counted down before the play was set. However, they're going to allow the Gales to kick it from the other end of the field, which certainly would be a break for the Gales, as they would now be kicking with the wind here.
That is surprising, Don, because I thought time was whistled in. Once time's whistled in, you get that play off before the quarter ends.
Yeah, the play normally, the clock has to end before the play. But we're not going to complain about that as the Gales now try and break on to the scoreboard. And essentially we're seeing a lot of a repeat of what happened last week in London. The Gales just trying to keep their head above water here in the first quarter as they try and get on the scoreboard for the first time. As always, Sean McKinnon will be the holder.
McKinnon, the holder. Napoli, a left-footed kicker. It's pinned, kicked, and it's wide. So the Gales only get 1 point out of that turnover by McManus. That it was an interception that brought the ball to the McMaster 15, but the Gales only get 1 point out of it. So they trail 13-1.
Again, we're seeing that improved leg of Chris Napoli able to boom that ball right through the end zone that time.
Mack elects the scrimmage from their own 35. First and 10. I formation in the backfield. And a handoff this time to Lumsden, but he goes nowhere. So McMaster really has had pretty good success passing against the Gales, but the rushing game of McMaster has not been that strong.
Just 28 yards rushing, and actually now 27 on this afternoon. 95 through the air in that first quarter. 123 yards in net offense for McMaster for the Gales. -2 on the ground, 26 through the air. Take away those other 13 yards for sacks, just 11 yards in offense for the Gales in that first stanza. Time of possession also favoring Mac, 8:23 to 6:37.
So 2nd and 11. Back to throw, all kinds of whistles and flags. Looks like it's a procedure call. We'll have to
It's
see.
now time to choose our last two contestants for the halftime winner truck competition.
And that's what it is.
Draw your attention to the
And right now, Mac, at least are losing that battle. That's their 6th penalty on this afternoon. 55 yards to Gales. Just penalized that one time back in the first quarter. That's going to bring up now a long 2nd and 16. Now going into the wind. Challenge is going to be to see how well Behe can throw. Did a good job going with the wind back in the first quarter, often throwing to Rankin.
2nd and 16 for Mac. They lead 13-1. Early in the second quarter. Behe over the center. Long count. And he's delayed draw to Lumsden. Lumsden's got some room now. And he's finally tackled. He'll be short of the first down by about 3 or 4 yards.
Dave Brown coming up to make the play that time, so we've seen a good job by Brown breaking up a pass back in the first quarter, coming up to make that tackle. But the Gales, I think initially it might even have been Corey Trudeau who had a chance to wrap him up just at the line of scrimmage. And now a tough break for the Gales as Ross Corley, one of their new defensive linemen, is down with what looks like to be a bit of a stinger in his right shoulder.
And if listeners and viewers are wondering if Jesse Lumsden is any relation to Neil Lumsden, yes, he is. He's the son of Neil Lumsden. Neil Lumsden, the CFL great, who was also a CIAU great, playing for the Ottawa Gee-Gees, I believe still has a record for most points scored, because not only was he a record-breaking fullback, he was also a kicker and won a national championship in '75 with the Gee-Gees.
That's going to bring up a third and a long yard here. And right now, the MAC coach is discussing it at the sideline. We saw last week in Western, one of the key plays in that fourth quarter comeback was a failed third and short yardage attempt from the Western, from their own 35. And that allowed the Gales to maintain that momentum. Indeed, it is going to be MAC bringing in a couple of their big hog-type players, some backup defensive and offensive linemen here, as they're going to go for it on third and a short one.
And Queens countered that with a few bigger players of their own.
Now, the way Behe's been throwing the ball today, you have to wonder about a bit of a play-action fake.
I would think, though, with third and 1.5, I think they'll just go for it, run it, rush it ahead.
They're going to call timeout to discuss it yet again. So you have to wonder if the offensive coaches are saying, look, you don't want to give Queens a chance to get back quickly into the game. They're only down 12. 13-1 the score here early in the second quarter.
We should mention, too, Don, that last week against Western, Queens stopped Western on a 3rd and 1 from about the 45-yard line. That was when Western was still up by 2 points, I believe 37-35, 35-33.
And now MAC indeed have thought twice about it, thought 3 times about it. It looks as though they're going to bring in the punt formation. So Ray will be getting off his first punt of this afternoon, and he'll be going into the wind. Back to receive for the Gales right now, Sean McKinnon. And McKinnon has not received many punts so far this year. It's been Brian Crawford and Nick Corneal back to receive kicks.
Oh, and it's fumbled. Bad snap. Gales are after it. But it's still a loose ball. Loose, still loose. And finally picking it up for McMaster's 42, but he doesn't go anywhere with it. Nick Burns. And so probably Greg Marshall shaking his head thinking maybe we should have gone for it, as that was even worse than if they would have gone for it, as the Gales probably picked up a few yards.
Hindsight is
That's
always
right.
2020, but now, as Marshall was saying for MAC before the game, they have to take advantage of some of these breaks. Now the Gales have to do that. Interception last time, just a single. And you can see the Gales get in, and initially it looked as though they're trying to pick it up and run it in. Now, if MAC had picked it up and been able to advance it for first down yardage, they would have been able to pick up a big break there.
So Gales get another break, another turnover. They had an interception before, now a fumble. Shotgun formation. Dennison back to throw. He just lobs it. It's complete. Going to the 30, to the 27. That time is Crawford. As Crawford grabbed that sort of, as he was surrounded by some linemen. He'll pick up about 6.
Yeah, it gets close to 7 on the screen now, and that's the kind of thing that you can do against your offensive defensive front, which is bringing lots of pressure. Is go to some screens and some quick passes.
And here's another handoff to Crawford. It's going to be very close for a first down, but I believe he'll have it, Don.
Looks as though he got just the yardage that he needed.
So the Gales do get a first down on this turnover so far.
And actually now they're going to call for the chains. It looks as though the ball, it didn't seem to get to quite the spot that I thought Crawford might have deserved there. But one of the things that we have seen through the Gales, especially early in the season, especially back in that Western game, is the ability to make in-game changes. And that's a hallmark of any good coaching staff, is to be able to counter what the other team is doing to you. We've seen the Gales defense be able to do that, getting a lot more pressure on Behe. And now we're starting to see the Gales go with some quick sets, because what that does, it restricts, it negates the ability of MAC to switch in players for different kinds of situational setups.
So the Gales will have first and 10 from the MAC 26. Shotgun formation once again for Dennison. Rolling to his right. Looking, fires over the middle, has a man. Joyner, oh, couldn't squeeze it.
and the ball seemed to go just near the left upright, and you have to wonder if that might have hindered Spear as he tried to come away with that pass. Also, good coverage back there on the play, but Spear had the position on him, and it just eluded him.
Pardon me, Don. Yeah, it was Spear, and yeah, those goalposts, I think it was kind of in the shadow of the goalpost and perhaps threw off Spear, but Spear having a great season so far this year, leading Gale receiver. Navo now coming into the game, spelling off Crawford, as it'll be 2nd and 10 for Queens at the McMaster 26. They trail 13-1. No one in the backfield. Dennison over center. Back to throw. Blitz is on. Incomplete. Just a slant into Fleming, but it was too low.
And they had it that time, and Dennison read it properly. As soon as the Gales went with an empty backfield, Mac pinched up 2 linebackers, had a 6-man rush, and he had Fleming open as he tried the quick slant against Idu. And now it's going to bring up the 2nd attempt for Napoli this afternoon for a field goal. This time, with the ball being snapped from the 26, will be about a 33-yarder.
Napoli does have the wind at his back, probably about a 35-kilometer-an-hour wind as it's been gusting up and down.
And the one thing for a kicker is that the wind initially, at the beginning of the game, seemed to be slanting across the field. As a kicker, you always want it going straight at you or straight behind you.
McKinnon will pin this.
And a time count. Not what you want, as that now is going to make it a 38-yard field goal. Again, the long for Napoli this year is a 36-yarder, so this would be his longest kick.
Costly penalty for the Gales. Been a few penalties on both sides, McMaster especially, that you don't expect on the 4th game of the season from 2 quality football teams. It's snap, pinned, kicked, and good. It just makes it. And so, Napoli on his 2nd attempt, which is quite a bit further away, makes good on it. 13-4 now. McMaster's still out in front.
And that's a career long for Napoli. Good job that time done by Sean McKinnon, the holder, as he had to bring down a high snap, and that threw off the timing just a little bit. But Napoli, with the wind behind him, was able to put it through for 3 points.
Mac will elect a scrimmage from their own 35. Both teams have done that when they've gone against the wind. Behe over center, I formation in the backfield. That's Pierre and Lumsden. And play action. Behe looking to the right side. Has Pierre open, and he's tackled right away. Nice job by number 22, McManus. And so far, if you ask me, Don, I think McManus has been the best player defensively for the Queen side.
Certainly one of the best defensive backs, but we've seen a good job by and large by the Gales this afternoon so far of being able to make that first tackle. Now, the one thing that's a little bit frustrating going back to those last 2 drives offensively for the Gales, they had opportunities just overthrowing Spear in the end zone, and those are the kind of things that we saw last year in that Yates Cup matchup. We hope that the Gales will be able to get things clicking a little bit more next time they get the ball back.
2nd and 2. Swart is wide to the left. High formation. Play action. Behe looking to his left. He might run with it. McClellan trips him up. And I think Behe will have enough for the first down, though. Just.
Behe gets the first down.
Behe looking downfield that time for Swart, but good job done that time by Nick Corneal, now on the strong side corner position, as he had Swart blanketed. Otherwise, that would have been another big play downfield for the Marauders.
Lumsden comes out of the ball game now. Nation's leading rusher.
Mac, by and large, going with a totally different offensive look than they have all season so far.
1st and 10. Hand off to Pierre. Pierre tries to bull his way, but doesn't get too far. Gets 2 yards, maybe 3.
Trudeau and Hazlitt in there on the tackle that time for the Gales.
Matt Kirk making the tackle.
Yeah, you would think Lumsden, who's the leading rusher in the nation, he only has 3 carries for 14 yards. But credit McMaster, their game plan's been effective, Don, even though they haven't used their big weapons.
And now the one thing they're going to want to do in the 2nd quarter is to use the ground game, a controlled pass game, to try and keep the ball away from Dennison with the wind. Their defensive line doing a good job not allowing them to get any rhythm going yet.
Fahey, quick drop back, fires for Swart, and it's complete. Swart gets the first down and lots more as he gets to the Gales 40-yard line.
To Swart. First down for
That should put Swart close to over 100 yards receiving.
And right now, one of the big keys for Swart, he's a 6 foot 3 inch receiver going up against Cornell, who's just 5'10". He also had a couple inches on Swag when he was out there, and that time just simply able to get the ball up over the cornerback for a big first down.
Swart is fourth in the OU in receiving. He has 96 yards now on 3 receptions. First and 10, McMaster at the Gales 40, handoff, Pierre. Pierre manages to get 5 yards as he's tripped up by Trudeau right at the line of scrimmage, but just stumbles for 5.
Good job made by Pierre, able to keep his legs going underneath him that time. Coming up to finish him off on the play was Philippe Champagne, but now brings up a big 2nd and 5. Gales don't want to allow Mac to hold on to the ball and keep the clock away from them here. Top 2 teams in the OU, the 3-0 Marauders, 3-0 Gales, also at 3-0, the Laurier Golden Hawks. And this afternoon, they are going up against Waterloo in that intercity matchup.
Straight up the middle, that time not getting very far, was Mike Long, the backup fullback.
Jesse Lumsden.
You almost wonder, Mark, one of the hallmarks of the Gales defense the last couple years really, has been a tremendous interior rush defense, and maybe that's one of the strengths of Mac, and now they're deciding to go away from it a little bit with a bit of a different formation. Now it's going to bring up 3rd and 4, and as this is certainly outside of Ray's range, and you don't want to punt the ball away necessarily, they're going to try and go for it here. Big 3rd down play.
Huge play. Swart wide to the left. Rankin wide to the right. And they're going to pass. Fahey looking, has time, fires deep, and it's intercepted.
And a bit of a mistake, unfortunately, exactly, for the Gales defensive back there.
Oh, that's as good as a punt.
It is, as they would have had the ball out at their own 34. Instead, they're going to be backed up all the way to their own 9-yard line, so it looks great on the stats. But now the Gales defensive backs conferring about that as they come over to the sideline. You can't make those mental mistakes. Yes, it looks good, but it gives your team terrible field position.
Probably thinking it was a 2nd down situation. Similar event happened a couple of weeks ago. Shotgun formation. Dennison looking, has time this time, looking for Fleming. Intercepted to the 30, the 25, the 20, and finally hauled out of bounds at the 21. Josh Armstrong, the defensive back.
Just a bad choice by Dennison that time. Did not pick up the safety, who was just sitting back in a deep zone there. And so right away, 2 horrible breaks now for the Gales. Yes, it was an interception, but you would have started off in your own 35, and Dennison forcing that. That's the kind of thing that we saw last year back in Hamilton at the end of the season.
McMaster now in a great position to sort of take a commanding lead as they lead 13-4 with 6 minutes left to go in the half. Fahey handing off to Lumsden, and Lumsden gets about 5 yards.
Hand off to Jesse Lumsden.
Lumsden has some pretty explosive
Mark Mitchell.
speed in his first 3 strides.
You can see all he wants to do in that off-tackle play is just simply run downfield, get into that Gale secondary. But just under 4 yards to carry that time. And looking a little bit cramped on the field, and in fact now they are going to have to call an injury timeout for the Gales. It looks, trying to get a number here, as though it might be Nick Cornell. So check, that might be Mitchell Smith from his safety position. That'll be a tough break for the Gales as he calls a lot of those defensive backfield signals. But Mark, we talk about when you're in a game like this, it's not just the play that you do on the field, it's the play between your ears, and it's 2 plays back-to-back for the Gales that now put them in a deep hole here, as indeed it is Mitchell Smith now able to jog off under his own steam as Gales trainer Dave Ross going out to assist him.
So it looks like it's not too serious for Smith, and that's a relief for the Gales.
It's going to be
The French
DJ
coaches.
Mulholland now checking into the game to replace him. This is Mulholland's first game dressing this year.
Second and 6 for McMaster at the Gales 15. Behe throws. It's complete to Swart. Swart gets the first down, and he's driven out of bounds at about the 7.
And I've been impressed by the job that Behe's been able to do. That's tremendous arm strength. Throwing
Pass complete to
just a
Swart.
simple out pattern
First
out to the
down
far
for
side of the
Marauders.
field. Again, the Gales coming with the blitz that time as they realize that's about the only way they're going to be able to stop Behe in the passing attack of Mac. And it's not what we expected to say. We thought we'd be seeing Lumsden appear in the rushing attack of Mac.
It just shows that McMaster is perhaps still the class of the OUAA, although we still have a half to go, and Gales have come back last week. But so far, McMaster, the better team. Pierre breaks a couple of tackles and now is stuffed. Nice play that time by 42 for the Gales. Ian Haslett, the rookie.
And we also see Smith having checked back in.
Haslett
Good news for the Gales.
and Mitchell Smith.
Should mention Haslett, his dad, Paul Haslett, played on that 78 Manny Cup team and is actually a grad of KCBI here in Kingston, Paul Haslett. But Ian Haslett, the son, grew up in Sault Ste. Marie.
Here now checking out as Lumsden comes in for the second and almost 5 yards and goal to go here. Be another big stand for the Gales if after another turnover in their own end they can just hold Mac to just a field goal.
I formation, Lumsden gets the carry, he's driving in, fumbled, and I think the Gales have it. And I believe it may have been McManus.
Lumsden, the ball carrier.
And a little bit of pushing and shoving afterwards,
I
and
thought there was a fumble there, Don.
Lumsden was going into the end zone, lost the ball, and in fact it looks as though it's going to be, I believe, Andrade, one of the backup defensive backs, backup running backs in there, who was able to recover it at the 2-yard line.
It'll be third and goal to go
So it was a fumble, but the Gales did not recover. It looked like the Gales were going to get that ball.
from the 2-yard line.
So third and goal from the 2. They
And
bring the big boys in for McMaster.
They bring the big boys in. The Gales do the same. Of course, the last time on the last drive, Mac went for it and had that interception.
All right, crowd cheering on the Gales defense here. Big play, and there's Pierre, and he doesn't get it. Pierre hit by Patoni.
Oh, I saw a hit coming across the top that time, and in fact, I think it might even be Champagne on the play as he comes over to the sideline. Tried to go up over the top, and now a flag comes out as I believe some of the McMaster players were questioning the spot. But certainly Champagne came right over the top and met the running back in midair.
Let's see the replay. Oh, sorry. Well, we may not get a chance for the replay.
And here we go. Let's take a look at a huge play of the game here so far for the Gales. As Pierre takes a handoff, vaults over his defensive line, and then just met in midair there, and Champagne putting him back on the ground. An unsportsmanlike penalty is now going to move the ball out to the Gales' 11-yard line.
And a linebacker's dream to stuff a running back at the goal line like that. So, first and 10 for the Gales at their own 11. They do have the wind. They don't have a lot of time left in the first half, though. 3:52. Dennison, play action. Looking, has some time. Looking, can't find anybody. Now he's going to run with it to the 15, the 20, and he gets out of bounds at the 20. And so he'll be short by about a yard and a half for the first down.
Now, last week in that Western game, we hate to go back and keep harping on that, but the Mustangs put a lot of pressure on Dennison, and he actually had his best rushing game of the season, and that may be what he's going to need to do to try and loosen up this McMaster front. 7 carries last week, 55 yards for Dennison. That was his first of this afternoon, as now we see Brian Crawford checking out for this second and a long 1 short 2 here for the Gales.
Navo deep in the backfield. He's going to take the handoff. He's tripped up right away, though. Nice play that time by the McMaster linebacker, Jay Pottinger.
Jason Pottinger.
And again, the Gales not to convert a key second down play. That was the kind of situation last week when Navo broke one for 75 yards. And now it looks as though Mac might even be calling...
3, it'll be 3rd and
Sorry, I
5.
thought they were calling a timeout. No, it's going to bring up 3rd and about 5 here for the Gales. Having a tough time on the ground today. Crawford's gone for 7 yards. But between some of the losses and so on, right now they have a net -1 for their rushing attack.
Brugden Hill will take this punt from his own 2. Gets the snap. Gets a good one away. Nice and high and deep. Rankin takes it at his own 45 and can only get to the 48. Great special teams coverage by the Gales.
49-yard punt that time by the Gales. Brugden Hill. Will the Thrill boomed it deep downfield. And that now is going to put Mac back on their own side of the center field when they thought they'd be in the Gales' end of the field. 3-minute warning now coming in.
And that's the value of a quality punter like Brugden Hill. He can get you out of a hole. So Mac will have 1st and 10 at their own 48. They lead 13-4, 2:56 left to play in the opening half.
The game has settled down into a real defensive struggle here in the second quarter as Mac blew out to that quick 13-0 lead.
Play action, Behe drops deep. Screen incomplete.
And, sorry, Mark, we talk about some of the mental breakdowns the Gales made on back-to-back plays. I think a good job that time done by Pierre as he was surrounded by a number of players, just simply knocked the ball down as he was sitting on his backside. It could just as easily have bounced up into a Gales' hands. So Behe, starting out 4 for 4 for 95 yards and 1 TD, has completed just 3 of his last 7 for a further 37 yards.
2nd and 10. Chances are he'll put it up here as well. Lumsden's deep in the backfield. Behe back to throw, looking, fires left side, looking for Swart, overthrew him. And so the McMaster Marauders will have to punt it away.
And that time you could see the job done by the Gales coverage unit to disguise what they were doing, looking as though a possible blitz and then dropping deep back into his own there. And that time they were able to keep the ball out of Rankin's hands. So Mac just using up 24 seconds that time. So hopefully the Gales can get into position for at least a field goal, which would bring them within 1 score here late in this first half.
McKinnon, the lone man, awaiting the punt from Ray. And Ray gets it high. It was close to being blocked. Lots of hang time. McKinnon gets it at his own 27. Gets up to the 30. And that's as far as he'll get to the 31. And so that's where the Gales will take over with 2:26 left to play in the opening half.
Great job by Ray done that time. 33 yards into the win. Not a very long punt, but tremendous hang time. And just allowed McKinnon a couple yards on the return that time. Gales almost coming up with a bit of a break there as a couple of players bumped into Ray. Could have been called contacting the kicker. I don't think he could have called that roughing the kicker, but it would have given them another chance and taken off more time.
Gales break the huddle. McKinnon wide to the left. Dennison fires quick, complete the Spear, and Spear drives his way. Probably has the first down. Just though. But good leg drive that time by Craig Spear.
11-yard reception that time for Spear. The first for Spear this afternoon as the Gales leading receiver coming into this game.
And Spear is 3rd in the CIS, I should say, in receiving, and 3rd in the OU.
And now just a bit of a problem with the chain gang on the far side of the field. Great crowd here on the community side, and also a very good crowd on the student side. Hope to see more of them stay for the second half, as many people left in that blowout back in the first week.
Dennison back to throw, complete the spear again. He tries to break a tackle, can't quite break it, but drags the McMaster defender with him. Good second effort, Don.
When we were updating the stats for the team roster this year, I noticed one guy who had gained 15 pounds in the offseason. That was Craig Spear, and we showed a lot of that leg strength. He was able to break up field for an extra 2 or 3 yards. They're trying to get out of the grasp that time of the defensive back Armstrong.
Wow, they're 2nd and 2. They're going shotgun formation here. And play action, and now Dennison rolling to his left. He's going to run for it, and he'll just get the first down. Looked a bit dangerous as he stumbled, and looked like he might get hit. There's a Marauder down.
Making the play that time is the defensive end, Robertshaw, and he is down on the play, and that was just a straight bootleg scramble for Dennison that time. We've seen Bakey doing a good job with some play-action fakes. That time Dennison able to do it.
I'm sure, though, every time Dennison runs with that ball, the Queens coach's heart pressure goes up quite a bit.
Well, the other thing, on that kind of play, once Dennison got the first down, he probably was going to slide, but once he got tripped up, he had to dive forward, and anytime you dive forward, you're still fair game for getting a big lick from some of those big DBs and linebackers.
And you're pretty vulnerable.
But with that injury to Robertshaw, a bit of a break for the Gales now, as Dennison able to come over to the sideline and confer with head coach Pat Sheehan. 13-4 is the score right now for McMaster here late in the first half. Gales just on their own side of center field. But whereas in the past against a lot of opponents, we've seen the Gales able to find some deep seam routes and get some balls deep downfield. They haven't been able to do a lot of that so far this afternoon. And so far in this drive, they've been going with some of those quick flat routes out to Spear to try and negate the blitz coming by McMaster.
And now Navo's lining up as a receiver on the short side, the left side of the field. Shotgun formation, 1st and 10. Dennison looking to throw on the right side. Fires, complete to Fleming. But Fleming will only get about 5 yards as he is tackled right away that time by Tristan Clovis.
Good job by Clovis coming up to make the hit. And that's a tough play to get a big gain on. Just because it's such a long throw out to the far side of the field, it's always going to give a chance for the DB to come up and make the hit. Gales again in the hurry-up. Under 2 minutes now left here in the first half.
Joyner wide to the left. Quick drop back, complete. Dennison, and fighting for the yardage is, I believe it's Spear again. It is Spear. Spear got that on his own. He just battled for that extra couple of yards.
And now a fracas after the play. Gales veteran offensive lineman Andrew Stead is over there and trying to get a number. I believe it's Furtado, possibly a safety for McMaster, who would come up on a blitz. Great job that time done again by Spear, able to use that leg drive to get in across McMaster 45.
Stead, the law student here at Queens, 5th-year offensive lineman, perhaps explaining the finer points of the game to the McMaster Marauder defense.
So I guess you could say he's trying to take the law into his own hands that time. Again, a timeout here being called on the field. And so with that, Dennison will come over to the sidelines to confer with Sheehan.
13-4 is the score. 1:32 left in the opening half. Marauders are leading. They are ranked number 3 in the country. Queens is ranked number 4 in the country. Both teams 3-0 going into this one.
So far, the best drive of the game for the Gales. First time they've been able to string together 3 first downs. Going with a stiff breeze at their back here late in the first half. Navo, lone man in the backfield as he comes up to the line.
Shotgun formation. Dennison gets a snap, rolls to his left. Bit of pressure, fires deep, looking for Fleming. Little bit of jostling that time. Fleming steals it. Touchdown, Ian Fleming.
License to receive. Ian Fleming, number 88. A 44-yard pass, struggle, and run play gets the Gales right back into it here. 13-10 pending the extra point.
Wow, it was interesting, too, because Clovis gave him a little push. Thought there might be an interference call, and the next thing you know, Fleming steals the ball away from Clovis. Here it is on the replay.
Great job that time done by Fleming. And Mark, we go back to when both of us first started broadcasting. One of the knocks on the Gales is that they were too small a team, not tough enough. Well, we've seen that certainly from the receivers here in this second quarter drive. The job done by Spear to break away for some key first downs, and that time by Fleming. Just had a little bit more wanna in that battle as he goes in for the TD.
And so now Napoli will attempt to convert, and it's good. McKinnon pinning it. O'Donnell was the snapper. So 13-11 with 1:22 left to play in the opening half in this battle of the OUAA Giants, McMaster and Queens.
And this is a battle of a couple of giants. With that touchdown now, Ian Fleming moves into, we believe, tie for 7th place on the all-time list with Don McIntyre with 10 catches for his career as a Golden Gale. Also up there right now, Spear and Smith, Brad Smith, of course inactive for the next couple of weeks as current Gales. But you talk about some of those in-game adjustments that good coaching staffs are able to make, and the Gales have been able to adjust to that Mac passing attack. Mac right now has to show they're going to be able to run the ball like they have all season, and the Gales able to get away some much quicker passes that time. Dennison going with some quick 3-step drops instead of going back as far as he was earlier and getting sacked.
And Napoli here, kicking it, kicks it deep. Rankin gets it at his own 5. 10, 15, to the 20, 25, breaks a couple more tackles, 30, 35. Make that Lumsden actually all the way to the 42-yard line.
Well, a 37-yard return that time off of a 60-yard kick. And Lumsden's been doing that all season. That's just his 5th kick return. Mac has had very few touchdowns scored against him this year. In fact, these are obviously the first points Mac has given up this year in this game. Right now he had a 26-yard average coming into the game, and that's going to go up some. Gives Mac good field position here, just over a minute left in the first half.
Excellent field position. Lumsden showing some great speed, probably a little speedier than his dad was.
And a little bigger than the average kick returner.
All right, so Behe over center, and it's a delayed handoff. It goes to Lumsden. He'll only get about 3, maybe 4 yards.
And Mark Mitchell was just a spy on that play, just sat off the on the left side of the defense, let the running back make the first move, and then wrapped them up after, well, actually about a good 4.5-yard gain.
Shotgun, Behe looking all kinds of time. Now he scrambles to his left side, looking for the first down, doesn't get it. Curtis McClellan stops him before he gets it, the Sydenham grad.
And that will definitely make McClellan the leading all-time solo tackler as a Golden Gale. And that now is going to force Mac into a punting situation as he had stopped him a good 2 yards short. So great job done by the Gales defense once again to stiffen here late in the first half. And the other thing with Behe going out of bounds, that's going to stop the clock with just under a minute left here in the first half. Just 25 seconds run off the clock that time by the Marauders.
And so, as you mentioned, McClellan beating the record held by Langford. Boone right with them as well, and both of those guys 3-time defensive MVPs of the Gales.
Great punt again here.
And no yards.
Fumbled by McKinnon, but that no yards will mean the Gales will be able to pick it up. But again, a superb high, deep punt that time by Michael Ray. So you can credit him with about a 34-yard punt into a stiff breeze. No yards on the return. And then you can march off a 15-yard no yards penalty. That's now the 7th for 70 yards here this afternoon against the Marauders.
Gales have the wind at their backs. Bit of a crosswind now, sort of diagonally across the field, coming from the southwest end. Tom Dennison has 38 seconds to work with. He's got 1st and 10 at his own 46. Shotgun formation. Back to throw. Fires. Complete to Joyner. Joyner dances around, breaks a couple of tackles, and gets the first down. Sorry, make that Spear. Really hard to see the number 9 and 8.
And now going down on the play is Spear, as he took a big hit that time. And you could see Tom Dennison trying to educate some of these first-year fans on the student side, saying, look, when we have the ball, keep it cool. I want to be able to call some audibles and some extra signals at the line. This would be a big loss if the Gales were to lose Spear. As we said earlier in the game, no catches up until just a few minutes ago. That now is his 4th catch for 35 yards, and some tough yards on each of those.
So a little delay here in the game. Dennison talking things over with Pat Sheehan, the head coach.
Ball right now spotted at the McMaster 50, just inside their 50-yard line. That last play went for 14 yards to Craig Spear. Dennison now coming back into the huddle here. Just 31 seconds left here in the first half. Just a reminder, McMaster started off early in the first quarter. In fact, all their scoring in the first quarter. Postma 15-yard reception for Bakey, and then 2 Ray field goals from 22 and 40 yards before Chris Napoli started to lead the Gales back with a 27-yard single and a 38-yard field goal here with 10:37. And just under a minute ago, it was Fleming with a 44-yard reception from Dennison. And in fact, it looks as though it's going to be Joyner coming off off the field on that play. So it must have been Joyner who indeed did get that reception that time. Oh no!
Joyner, the rookie, had over 100 yards receiving last week.
Coming into the game, the second leading receiver for the Gales, and he looks as though he's in tough shape.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. Looks like a knee injury or something. Getting a round of applause from the Gales fans here today. So Gales, 1st and 10 from the Mac 50. Dennison rolling out, looking, all kinds of time, rolling around, and now he's sacked for about a 3-yard loss as he could not find anybody open, so that's what you call a secondary sack.
Great job by the Mac secondary, Mark, as you just said, and Dennison tried to break off downfield just about a step too late as he was brought down for the 4th sack of this afternoon for a total of 16 yards. Going to bring up 2nd and about 13. And with the clock running, Dennison calling the final Gales timeout to save a few precious seconds here. 18 seconds left here, just over 18 seconds left in the first half.
Be interesting to see what they call here. I imagine they'll sort of go for something semi-deep.
Might want to look at Spear on maybe about a 9 or 10 yard route on the right side of the formation, and then just see if he can bull his way forward for that first down.
And stop the clock, and then you still get another 3 plays maybe.
Well, if he can get the first down, they would almost be in field goal range for Chris Napoli, especially considering that he has the wind at his back. That field goal that he did make earlier was a 38-yarder.
18 seconds left to play in the half. So 2nd and 13 for the Gales. They'll line up shotgun formation once again. Fleming wide to the left. Dennison looking over the middle. Complete the Spear. Does he have it? Yes, he does. No catch, they rule.
No, he dropped the ball and bounced right back up into his midriff. So that now is going to bring on a 3rd down and 13 yards to go. Now decision time for the Gales. Do they decide to go for it? Because if they do indeed get it, they would just about have time for maybe one more heave at the end zone. But if they don't, then you're going to be giving up the ball with maybe about 5-6 seconds left in the first half with Mac up at their own 53-yard line. But indeed, the Gales are going to go for it. It's their first gamble here of this afternoon. Mac 0 for 2.
3rd and 13, shotgun. Dennison rolling out to his right. Fires, it's complete, and out of bounds. What a play.
Now that is 2 players there who've been doing that for, well, I was going to say 2 players who've done that for quite a while. One of them has, but it's Rob Bagg, I think, who picked up that reception, number 82 on that wide side of the field.
And so, just a perfectly executed play. They stop the clock, get the field goal unit on. It's going to be still a pretty good kick from about the 46.
And the referee being very generous in terms of how long he allows the Gales to whistle it in before he whistles time in. And indeed, the Gales are going to come back on, because it would have been about a 46-yard attempt for Napoli, and he just made the last one from the from 38 yards.
So the Gales could almost get 2 plays here. They have 8 seconds left if it's passing plays. Henry
Exact-
rushing off the field, the fullback.
Exactly. Expect to see a quick out here to either McKinnon or Spear on the far side.
Dennison, quick drop back. There's a flag on the play. Dennison just runs with it.
And you can see right away he tries to get that ball touched down so it'll allow the field goal team to come on. But with that flag, some motion in the area possibly of offside.
I think it's offside.
Nope. Right, exactly. Offside on a receiver against the Gales. So now if they're 5 yards back, you're looking at about close to 50 yards for a field goal attempt. Even though it's with the wind, that might be asking Napoli a little bit much.
Offside, Queens.
So just the third penalty this afternoon against the Gales, but a key penalty is it's going to force them essentially, I would think, out of any field goal attempt here. No, indeed, they are going to bring on Napoli. So this would be his longest, looking at an attempt which would be about 51 yards here. 13-11 the score here. And I guess the difference here from a few seconds ago is the fact that there's no way Mac will be able to, well, I guess we have seen run backs. They're not going to have an offensive play here anyway.
No, they're not. But you
But
do
they're
have to watch
midfield.
the run back if the field goal is short or wide. There is a pretty strong breeze right now, right at Napoli's back. Wind has been swirling, though. It's changed direction quite a bit.
And you got to love Canadian football. 3 men in the Mac end zone who would try and punt the ball back out.
And there's the kick. It's low, and it looks good, and it is!
A 51-yarder that was a big good from 60 yards for Chris Napoli, his longest. And that's going to send the Gales into the halftime break with a 14-13 lead.
Well, well, well. Napoli, that could be a Queen's record, that 51-yard field goal. And Napoli really was not the expected place kicker this year. It was going to be the veteran Roger Levac for Salgrad. But Levac with a hamstring injury, Napoli has come in and has filled in admirably, especially after that 51-yarder, which gives the Gales momentum and the lead going into the dressing room, 14-13. You're watching Golden Gales football on Cogeco. We'll be right back with a bit of halftime show.